Here up front, don't be shy. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Candace Jandro, and it is my honor and privilege on behalf of the Rhode Island Crime Victim Service Provider Steering Committee to welcome you all here today in observance of National Crime Victim Rights Week. Thank you for coming, and it is truly wonderful to see so many of you here today braving the weather. The sun was here a moment ago. I'm sure it will come back. It does every year, I promise. Thank you to the many distinguished individuals behind me: Stephen Perry, the Providence Public Safety Commissioner; Colonel Clements, Chief of Providence Police; Colonel Manny, Rhode Island State Police Superintendent; General Treasurer Seth Magaziner; U.S. Attorney Aaron Wiseman; and Patricia Coyne-Feg, Director of the Rhode Island Department of Corrections, all for being here today as well. And of course, a special thank you to Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Nerona for making today's ceremony possible. I am here with my co-chair, Angelica Spirito from St. Mary's Home for Children, and I am with Family Service of Rhode Island. Every April, the U.S. Department of Justice Office for Victims of Crime leads communities throughout the country in their annual observances of National Crime Victim Rights Week. This is a time to honor crime victims, to celebrate our nation's progress in advancing their rights, and working towards expanding the reach of victim service programs. And every April, Rhode Island public officials, law enforcement, victim service providers, volunteers, and advocates come together to observe the week here at Victims Grove. We stand shoulder to shoulder with crime survivors and their loved ones to let them know that we have not forgotten them and we continue to fight for them. Is Kim Maciel with us? I didn't recognize you. Hi. She's wearing her Beyonce glasses. I would like to invite Kim Maciel, a longtime victim advocate with Day One in the Department of Corrections, to get us started by kindly leading us in singing the national anthem.
I'm short, sorry. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Kim. This year's National Crime Victim Rights Week theme, Honoring Our Past, Creating Hope for the Future, celebrates the progress made by those before us as we look to a future of crime victim services that is even more inclusive, accessible, and trauma-informed. The modern crime victims' rights movement only began in the 1970s. Before then, crime victims had virtually no rights and no assistance. The criminal justice system often seemed indifferent to their needs. They had no access to victim compensation or services to help rebuild their lives, and there were few resources to deal with their emotional trauma. Victims and families were on their own to recover their health, security, and dignity. But today, we see that dramatic progress has been made in securing rights, protections, and services for victims. The Victims of Crime Act was passed in 1984. Every state has enacted victim rights laws, and every state has a victim compensation program. And thousands of victim service agencies are now helping victims across the country. In Rhode Island, dozens of organizations have joined the Crime Victim Service Providers Steering Committee, who helps to organize this event, sharing a commitment to best practice training and professional development for providers, advocates, and organizations about crime victimization, victim rights, effective response, and available resources to preserve victims' dignity, restore their and their families' well-being, and support their involvement in the justice process. We are also working together to expand our reach to previously underserved victim populations, including victims of color, victims of elder abuse, and LGBTQ victims, and also to assist victims of crime that have long been underreported, hate and bias crimes, and sex and labor trafficking, to name only a few. Yet there is still much to do, and so much we will do together. Our collective commitment to reaching and supporting every victim of crime is stronger than ever. Today, we will recognize individuals and organizations who have shown tremendous dedication to supporting and advocating for and honoring the rights and dignity of Rhode Island victims of crime. In addition to today's ceremony, with support of Commissioner Perry and Colonel Clements, we have recently dedicated a space for victims of crime and their families at the Providence Public Safety Complex. We would like to thank the William Stone Company for donating a permanent memorial stone bench for the space. We would also like to thank David Cooley, Family Service of Rhode Island Project and Facilities Director, for all of his hard work in beautifying that space and also here in the Victims Grove in preparation for today's event. Also, Will Tregaskis with Family Service of Rhode Island for his assistance in promoting this ceremony and all of his logistical support. It is Will alone who has helped us figure out how that sign is not going to fall on anybody today, so he's a very important fellow. The Providence Parks and Recreation Department has offered its continued support over the years, as has Fry Florist, who has donated the beautiful memorial wreath every year, so thanks to both of them. And thank you especially to Anna Jerome of the Attorney General Victim Services Unit, former steering committee chair, who again provided her endless support this year for the ceremony. Finally, I would like to thank many steering committee member organizations who assisted in various ways to make this year's Crime Victim Rights Week ceremony possible. They include Day One, the FBI Victim Services for Rhode Island, the Institute for the Study and Practice of Nonviolence, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the Rhode Island Cybercrime Support Network, the Rhode Island General Treasurer's Crime Victim Compensation Program, the Rhode Island Public Safety Grant Administration Office, Sojourner House, and St. Mary's Home for Children. So thanks to them all. With that, I will turn it over to Attorney General Peter Nerona. Peter was sworn in as Rhode Island's 74th Attorney General earlier this year after spending 20-plus years in public service representing the people of Rhode Island as Assistant Attorney General, as an Assistant United States Attorney, and as the United States Attorney for the District of Rhode Island at the appointment of President Barack Obama. We are so pleased to have you here with us today, and thank you.
Candace, yeah, this is not my first time here. This goes back so far that I don't really remember where it began, but it has grown into something that has its own life, and it doesn't matter who the Attorney General is. This event, this ceremony, will live on because of its importance. I want to welcome some special guests today. Including my former colleague at the AG's office on both stints, and now our U.S. Attorney, I'm proud to call him a friend, U.S. Attorney Aaron Weissman. I know DOC Director Patricia Coyne-Faig was scheduled to be with us, and if she's here, come up if you can, and if not, we welcome you. The General Treasurer Seth Magaziner is here. Thank you, Treasurer, for your important work in this area. Colonel Hugh Clements from the Providence Police Department is a regular here. I've stood with you many times in this very place. Thank you for the work that you do. Commissioner Stephen Perry from the Providence Police Department is here, as well as Superintendent of the State Police, Jim Manning. You know, this year's theme is about looking to the past. And when I think of my own past, joining the AG's office in 1996, I remember that first day very, very well. I remember sitting in that Cafe La France right over there. I got here early, not really sure what the day would hold, what I would learn, how long I would last, whether I'd make it, frankly. And I was coming from a large law firm where we really did not have victim cases, as all of us know victims. The clients at Goodwin Proctor were large corporate clients. It was a firm then of 300 lawyers. Now it's a firm of 800 lawyers. And I have to say, when I came here, I didn't think of victims really at all. What I wanted to be was a trial attorney, like many people are who join the AG's office. I wanted to go into court. I wanted to learn how to try cases. I wanted to see whether I could do it or not. And I wanted to have some fun, frankly. But what I learned over those 7 years in the Attorney General's office, in a place where I think you can learn it like no other, working with all of you as well, is how important that work is through the eyes of a victim. And the cases that I remember from my career, and they're not cases that received a lot of headlines, frankly, but the cases that I remember from being a line prosecutor are the cases where they had the most impact on victims. And in the course of handling those cases, like all of you have seen it, and all of you who are or have been victims have experienced, it's this wide range of emotions. It's sadness, it's loss, it's anger, and many times it's mercy. I can remember one case very, very clearly where the mother of the victim showed more mercy than I can imagine displaying had that been my child who had been the subject of that crime. And so, as I think back over my career, I think of those victims' faces, and I think of those cases, and I think all of you who do this work, and many of you who I've worked with. I mean, Anna Geron, we've worked more cases together than I can count. And those are the cases that I remember. Day one, the work that we did when I was U.S. Attorney to build protocols for human trafficking victims. I remember that work very, very well too. And so when I think about this day, that's what I think about. I think of the faces of victims, what they've taught me, and the great work that all of you do in support of victims. And so thank you for that. And so with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over. If I can get my notes correct here. By the way, my prepared remarks, which I ignored, which I often do, say that it's a beautiful day today. So we're still hoping that will arrive. But with that, let me turn the microphone over to U.S. Attorney Aaron Wiseman for some remarks. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you didn't hear any of that. I can say it again. So let me turn the microphone over to Aaron Wiseman, our U.S. Attorney.
Thank you, Attorney General Nerona. This year's theme is honoring our past, creating hope for the future. It is most appropriate that we all, especially those of us who have made a career in law enforcement, recommit ourselves to ensuring that crime victims continue to have a voice, a strong voice, in our legal system, to securing justice for victims of crime, and to preventing others from suffering what they have endured. I am proud to be able to stand here today, some 39 years since President Ronald Reagan proclaimed the first National Crime Victims' Rights Week in 1981, and say that the Department of Justice is making more funds available than ever before to meet the needs of crime victims. I am proud, too, to say that we at the U.S. Attorney's Office work hand in hand with General Rona's outstanding office and with the incredible efforts of local law enforcement and family justice centers to empower survivors and their families to provide justice to victims of crimes. And yes, also to hold criminals accountable for the crimes they inflict on others and for the trauma they cause to our communities. In gathering today to reflect upon the amazing achievements of these dedicated to assisting victims of crime, we recognize that the champions, like the ones we honor here today, are offering victims hope for the future. Champions like Myra Latimer-Nicholas of the Stephen K. Latimer Memorial Foundation, dedicated to eradicating the cycle of senseless street violence. by promoting programs that encourage our youth to make good, wholesome life choices and strive for greatness. While we can no longer enjoy Stephen Latimer's beautiful smile, his open and kind heart, his charm, his legacy lives on in the Foundation's hallowed community work. We honor champions like Woonsocket Police Officer Michael Martinsen, who, notwithstanding all his other responsibilities, has done so much for victims of domestic violence in the city, not only in the area of advocacy, but also in his genuine care and compassion for victims of domestic violence. And he has done all this in a mild and calm manner, even in the most chaotic situations. We recognize champions like Michael Jackvony and Arthur A.J. Lee, DCYF Programming Service Officers, for all they do day in and day out in their important mission, not only in locating and supporting children in need, but also in building with at-risk youth the kind of relationships that are truly life-changing. And finally, we recognize victim champion Shannon Signore, a veteran prosecutor and tireless advocate for children and adults victimized by sexual violence. In the nearly 3 decades I spent as an appellate prosecutor in the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, under 5 Attorneys General, and then, if only but for a few brief, glorious days, under Attorney General Nerona, I witnessed few prosecutors who bring more passion and concern for crime victims than Shannon does, and would characterize her approach to prosecution as victim-centered. And I thank and admire her for this. So today, I want to say thank you to our champions. Thank you for inspiring all of us to recommit here and now and throughout the year to helping victims get the justice, assistance, and support they need to recover and rebuild their lives. Because all victims of crime deserve our respect and support. Thank you.